Hotel. Holly's staying with us. I mean, does this now mean he will definitely play next week?
Well, in theory, yes, because there was never really an issue in terms of whether or not he would compete at the Australian Open. The issue was whether or not he'd be allowed in the country. And this ended up obviously a very government-based and a legal issue rather than Tennis Australia getting too involved in it. And that seems to be where the problem is. And you think this all just began a week ago when he posted that picture onto Instagram, you know, saying, brilliant, I'll be playing in the Australian Open, can't wait. And obviously everyone then asked a few questions. You know, we don't know what his status is in terms of vaccination at that point, and here we are now, a week on, and it looks like he will be playing at the Australian Open after all.
And there was quite a lot of anger from some of those Australians who were waiting to see what was going to happen, because they felt that I think one of the journalists we were speaking to earlier saying in that state's 93% vaccination. So the idea of somebody not being vaccinated, being able to take part in this event, had actually annoyed quite a few Australians. But it seems now that quite a bit of that anger has transferred onto the Australian government because of the way they've handled all of this.
Exactly, and obviously it does feel like, particularly on social media, there was a lot of anger directed towards Novak Djokovic. You have to remember, you know, he's not responsible for the decisions that had been made. He's not responsible for the fact that people couldn't see their families. You know, he could perhaps showed a little bit more empathy towards that. That's, you know, he's always talking about wanting to be more liked, isn't he? It'll be interesting to see how that does play out at the Australian Open when that begins on Monday. But as far as Novak Djokovic is concerned, this should be the end of the story. But something tells me, as far as the Australian government is concerned, it certainly is not.
Yeah, and one thing is certain, lots of people will be watching that tournament closely, won't they? Thank you, Holly. Well, let's go to our correspondent, Sheen, triumphant in his appeal against the cancellation of his visa. Holly's here with an update. Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, no challenges remaining, it seems, for Novak Djokovic and the Australian government, but it doesn't feel like it is quite over. I feel like at the minute we want to start focusing on the Australian Open itself as he looks to defend his title.
Starts a week today, that's right, yeah.
On Monday, but in the meantime, it doesn't seem like it's going anywhere. In court, we heard that the Australian's immigration minister could use personal powers to revoke his visa again.
What does that mean?
It's not done and dusted just yet. So the Australian government are still battling. But as far as Novak Djokovic is concerned, he has to just concentrate on the job at hand. He's out of the hotel room. You have to remember too, he has been trapped, I suppose, in this hotel without access to tennis facilities, without access to training. You wonder what kind of impact that has on him, both physically and mentally, and of course how the tennis community will respond to this. Well, let's find out a little bit more from our tennis correspondent, Russell Fuller. Good morning, Russell. I mean, it is the story that just keeps on giving. We're just discussing this. I really appreciate your time this morning. Lovely to chat to you. You just get the impression this certainly isn't the end of it. I think a lot of people would like to see him play in terms of tennis. I mean, he has won it 9 times. He's looking for that 21st Grand Slam title. Who knows? But let's put it this way. I think we'll all be watching.
Yeah, and it's not just not the end of it in terms of Djokovic and this tournament, but sportsmen and women who decide not to be vaccinated and various rules for entering different countries. There will be more to come.
We did hear from Russell there as well, covering that, you know, the fact that there are other Grand Slams to come that have restrictions in place. So what happens then? We shall see.
There's going to be lots of eyes on that next week, aren't there? Thank you for the moment, Holly. I just wanted to show you a picture as we hand to Carol with the weather. Have a look at this. This is in quite a few of the papers this morning. This is in the Daily Mirror. A beautiful shot of the Northern Lights. This is actually taken up Findhorn Beach in Scotland. If you don't know, Carol normally tells us, electrically charged particles from the sun colliding with the atmospheric gases causing this beautiful effect. Carol, I know I talk to you about it every year, Carol, but I cannot get enough of these photographs. They're beautiful, aren't they?
They absolutely are, Dan. The colours are spectacular, and the way the